morning. Goodness. I honestly don't think this sinus infection's ever going to go away. Hey, good morning. Thanks for tuning in and hanging out for a little bit. Almost knocked over my coffee because I'm a little nervous this morning. We're switching up gears today. We are not live streaming gaming. We are hard at work with our day job, which, if you know me, you know that I own and operate Voppel Video, which is a full-service video production company. Essentially, I'm going to keep it easy because if you're here, you want to see the tutorial and not hear all about me and get the big hard sell on why you need to hire me for your next project. We're content creators, and we were content creators before that was even a thing. And so filming, still photography, editing, animation, live streaming, and graphic design, which is what we are doing today. We had a client reach out and they want us to do some logo treatments for them, to consider some new signage, two, a logo for an event they're having over the summer. So we're going to be spending some time this morning working on that. And we're going to be working in Illustrator and Adobe Photoshop. Maybe Photoshop. We might just be exclusively in InDesign, Illustrator. Too many applications to keep in mind. So, why are you going to hang out? Why are you going to watch us? Why are you going to spend a little bit of time with us? Well, if you're someone who is interested in graphic design, this will be a good process to kind of talk about the theory behind graphic design, color selection, layout, typography, that sort of thing. Also, working within the Adobe workspace and getting used to that. If you're someone who is maybe wanted to start using higher-end graphic design software, this will be a good opportunity for you to see how that works. Get familiar with the layout and the way layers work and transfer modes work, what all the tools do, that, and what have you. And also, too, if you're here, you'll have the opportunity to ask questions during the tutorial. And I'm going to probably be very slow and methodical in this process because I'm simulcasting to two different social media platforms. We're on Twitch and YouTube this morning. And so checking the chat, I'll probably be looking over that quite a bit. And you're probably thinking right off the bat, Troy, why are you using Illustrator when there's this great thing called Canva? We do not talk about Canva. It's very similar to the rules of Fight Club. You don't talk about Fight Club, and you also do not talk about Canva. I'm just kidding, sort of. Canva is a great resource for a lot of people to get the results they desire. I am a graphic design nerd. I'm going to be clear. When I went to college, I studied video production. That's what I went to. I wanted to be the next great filmmaker, and I've had the opportunity to create films and national video campaigns, local video campaigns, all those sorts of things. But over the years, I've had to learn how to do graphic design, and I've had to spend a lot of time learning how to use all these applications. So I'm a snob when it comes to software. That being said, Canva's not a bad option. I tell a lot of my clients, if you don't have the budget to hire out a professional graphic designer who uses software like this and then charges a little bit higher rate, Canva's a great place to go, especially if you're a small business owner and you're just starting out. I have helped a lot of clients with just creating generic graphic backgrounds that they then can go in Canva or another piece of software and add personalized text and things of that nature. So I don't want it to sound like I'm kind of crapping on Canva. It's a great option. It's a great resource, but it's not something I'm going to use. One, because I don't want to learn another piece of software when I understand how to get everything I need done within these applications. And the fact that these work a lot better. So that's my rant about Canva. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about the projects I have to work on today. I'm working on projects, and I'm just going to be fully transparent. These projects are for my church. We have an exterior signage that we are wanting to update. It's had some damage over the years, and they have asked for me to give some, complete and utter brain fart right there. Some different design ideas for them to review and maybe consider to work on. So we'll be doing that a little bit. Additionally, we will be, if we have enough time, working on some logo treatments also for my church, also for Vacation Bible School, which is coming up this summer, just putting together a nice logo treatment that we can use to advertise that. So that's what we're doing today. Of course, I have to do all the things that content creators do. If you're new to the channel and you like these tutorials, you find them helpful, and you find me mildly entertaining, somewhat charming and funny, do us a favor. We're wanting to grow this channel and do a lot more tutorials over the weeks and months to come, especially within all these different pieces of software. So give us a like, give us a follow. We're on YouTube at... Sorry, I'm looking for something here. You can find us here on YouTube at Voppel Video. If you're into gaming, we also live stream gameplay on Twitch. I will warn you that some of the gameplay stuff does have some some adult language, so if that's not your cup of tea, you probably want to stay away from it. If you want to watch me on Twitch gaming and basically getting decimated the majority of the time, just check the content filter. Usually the language gets fruity. If I can borrow a term from our friends across the pond, when I'm gaming with friends. Okay. It's nothing like overtly vulgar or bad, but anyway, I feel like I have to say that. So my head's all over the place. Doing a tutorial is brand new to me. I promise creating tutorials down the road will get much more seamless and together. But I decided to live stream this on a whim, and got way too many things in my headspace. And there is a good possibility from time to time, friends, that I will turn off my camera just so you can see the workspace a little bit better. But without further ado, let's get into it. So as you can see right here, I'm going to go ahead and turn my camera off right now. So as you can see right here, I currently have Adobe Illustrator open. This is the landing page you get when you launch the application, and your recent projects are going to be down here. And then you can go either right here at the big blue button and hit create a new file, or of course you can go up to file and new, or then go new from templates. You can also go open and open recent files. And of course your taskbar up here has a lot of the tools that you'll be using during your design process, and we'll be looking at a lot more of that as we work through this project. One of the big things you probably want to know early on about if you're completely new to Adobe Illustrator, essentially all Adobe applications, the Window tab at the top of your program bar, that's where you're going to have all the individual toolboxes that the software has at your disposal to either open them or close them. More than likely, you're going to close them from the workspace. But you'll see more of this as we work through tutorials. But if you're ever working in an application and you're just curious about, oh, hey, where do I go and find the effects tab, or where do I go and find the color guide? If you can't see it on your workspace, you can go into Window, scroll down, and you can click on that and it'll open. And also what's really cool about the Adobe software is you can customize workspaces and then save them. Now, as you can see right here, there are loads of preset workspaces that Adobe sends in the bundle. But once you kind of get a feel for how you like to work, how you like to design stuff, or the tools you most commonly use, you can save that. You can save as many as you want and just have them at your disposal. As an example, In Adobe Premiere, which is the video editing software application that I use, I have like 6 different workspaces. I have standard editing, which just is like a bare bones kind of a layout. We'll have a tutorial in Premiere down the way, so this is a good time for you to like and subscribe for updates. But then I'll also have a workspace for when I'm adding subtitles, because I add subtitles to all my videos. There's one for basic animation, so if I want to add text or do some sort of text animation, I have a layout for that. So depending on what I'm doing, I can switch between those workspaces and have a lot of windows open, a few windows open, but that's how that works. I traditionally don't spend a lot of time in Adobe Premiere animating things. I use Adobe After Effects for that. But anyway, that's not what today is about, right? You came here for graphic design, so let's talk about graphic design, okay? So the big question is today, which logo treatment do I want to start with? And I don't know. I am desperately thinking about this. Oh, and I'm just devastated because we have nobody watching. Surprise, surprise. That's okay. That's okay. If people don't join during the live stream, they can join later and hopefully watch down the road. Like I said, I just threw this out there without any advertisement. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the signage, because they have a temporary logo in place for the summer event. So let's get into that. So the first thing you're going to have to decide if you're working in Illustrator. Okay, already have to back up. Something very important for you to understand when you are doing graphic design is you need to know what you're going to be using the artwork for, okay? Because that will have a major impact on how big the artwork you are creating needs to be. So if you're doing a 4x5 postcard, you'll want to know those dimensions, okay? If you're unsure of what the final file format or size is going to be, Illustrator is a great place to create that for, because Illustrator is what's called a vector-based piece of software. Not going to go into a deep explanation of that, but when you're looking at graphics and artwork, there are two fields they fall in. You have vector and you have bitmap, okay? Bitmap files are your traditional JPEG, BMP files. PNG is another one. And essentially what that means is that when you save that out, it flattens it down, and whatever that image is, that's how it is, okay? So if it's 1,000 pixels by 1,000 pixels, that's what it's going to look like at that resolution, okay? You can always shrink it down and it'll still look fine, but if you were to make it bigger or scale it up, you're going to start losing resolution, okay? Because it is a flattened piece of what we call bitmap artwork, okay? Now, vector-based artwork is artwork that's created specifically in graphic design software, and vector artwork is lovely because as you increase the file size, it uses mathematical algorithms in the background to scale up your imagery while maintaining resolution, okay? So if you've ever gotten a file type in the past and you see .ai or .eps, those are Illustrator files, and that means that they're vector-based, meaning that you can make them larger without losing resolution, okay? So if you're unsure of what format or resolution or file, print dimensions, that's the word I was searching for desperately. If you're unsure of what print dimensions you're going to end up at, Illustrator is the way to go. Also, Illustrator is just absolutely fantastic with creating content. The big thing with Illustrator is it is very unique as opposed to Photoshop. If you've ever used Photoshop, Illustrator is going to make your brain hurt a little bit because, one, it functions completely differently because it is a true graphic design software. Some of the ways you build things are a lot different, and the thought process is a little bit tricky. But it's like everything else, right? It's a tool. And if you use the tool every day, it's going to be right there at the front of your brain and just easy to access. But if you use it infrequently, you're just going to have to anticipate that you're going to have a little bit longer time working on it. Okay. So they said what they thought the overall size of the outdoor signage was, and I didn't write it down. Was half listening when I had this convo. So what I'm going to do is just go to new file, and you can see right off the bat you have recent sizes you've done. So you can see that I've done an 8.5 by 11, 24 by 36 poster, 5 by 8 postcard. They're saved, which I don't have any saved. And then you can also see these headers up at the top as well as to certain templates. So this is really great. So say you were wanting to create some artwork for various iPhones or things of that nature, and then there's a lot of templates down here. You can go from web, your print right here, and you can see different ones of that size. And I'm going to change this to, ooh, and they have feet. That's interesting. Cool. And then inches. So you can select one of these, and you'll see right over here that it automatically changes those. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to inches, and I am just going to do a 24. Nope, it's a vertical post. It's a vertical sign. So I'll go 36 tall by 24. You'll see immediately that it changes the orientation to that's landscape, portrait. Bleeds. So what a bleed is, when you are printing things that are going to print on traditional paper, what a bleed refers to is, this is a good example. If you can see that right there, that thank you card, you can see that the artwork and colors go all the way to the edges. Okay. So what a bleed is that when you create a document, it adds a little bit of space on the outside of it that this color goes in off of the side onto it. Okay. So when they created this document, all these colors you see around the edge actually go out beyond where the card is cut. That way you don't have a white edge on the end. Okay. So that's what a bleed area is. When you are creating graphics for being designed to be printed, if they're using a print company, a lot of times that print company will send you what their marks and bleeds are. Okay. So marks are notes within the design where you can give specific instructions as to how you want things to look when they're printed, maybe the color profile, that sort of thing. But your bleed edge is how much space you want off the side to make sure that you don't end up with that white border. And most print companies will say, here's the bleed area we want. The majority of the time, it is around 0.125 inches. Okay, that's kind of the standard. I have had different printing companies make that number larger. And the good news is that you can always increase this bleed area later. You're not locked into using this forever. Okay, this is just the initial document setup. Okay. Advanced options, color mode, you'll want to use CMYK for print, okay, because that uses more colors. It has a more higher color profile information. If this was going to be only used for online or digital marketing, you can use the RGB color space because when you publish to social media or you use this in a presentation or anything of that nature, it's going to discard that additional color information and just simply switch to the red, the green, and the blue. One of the things I failed to mention is as I mentioned, I didn't go to college to study graphic design. I've learned how to do graphic design over the years. I will be trolled mercilessly by some graphic designers if they come across this for not using the right terminology or possibly not explaining something correctly. I apologize for that in advance. And if I do a bad job and you are a traditionally educated and experienced graphic designer, feel free to comment in the chats and maybe explain things a little bit more. And yeah, because my brain hurts sometimes thinking about the CMY. But for this, I'm going to work in the CMYK color space. And then raster effects. It's basically how many pixels per inch of information do you want. Like I said, for a television screen or an iPad or something of that nature, it's going to be 72 DPI. For print, you might as well go high, 300. Essentially, it's just more data, more information, and a better quality image. Okay. Preview mode, just default. What do we got under more settings just to see? Okay, so you can just kind of see that there. So, and then I'm just going to go ahead and give this, let's see, BUCC, signage, not template, treatment, 1. And now I'll create. Okay, so pardon me a moment. I actually just changed. Yeah, so actually you can see how, like, I'm going to turn my camera off, guys. Okay, so you can see right off the bat, like, all these different windows that are open here. And this is a good example. Traditionally, the main project window here is on my left. I have 2 monitors. Traditionally, this is on my left monitor, and then all of my toolboxes are on the right. I decided to change this today. My webcam is on my second monitor, so I moved this over here so you can see all this wonkiness here. So if I'm just going to move these boxes out of the way. That is one of the nice things with the most recent updates from Adobe is they have completely made this kind of a free form application, so you can grab these and personalize these to your heart's content. Okay. And don't worry, guys, when I'm over working in these toolboxes, I have a secondary view. I might just leave that there for now. I do have a secondary view where you can see. Sorry. So you can see. There we go. Sorry, I'm monitoring that on a different monitor. So you could see those toolboxes laid out here, and like I said, you can click on these, and if if Illustrator's cooperating, you can see how to do that. All right. Okay, so within this space, you can see right off the bat, here is our workspace, and you can see this red box around the outside. That's your bleed area, okay? So when you start, say I were to, just as an example, grab that and drag that here, okay? Now you can see right here, this is your color selection or your color template. If I double click that and open this up, here's your color picker. One thing, if you're new to graphic design, that you might not know about, and I'm going to apologize. This is going to be a very elementary tutorial. So if you're someone who's pretty experienced, you might find this one frustrating. I'm currently an adjunct professor at a university, and a lot of the times, the feedback I get from students is that I tend to rush through explanations or not give a detailed enough approach on how things work. And it's something I have to work really hard at, is slowing down and being very methodical and kind of talking through things at a basic level, okay? All my students, brand new to video production, brand new to editing, so a lot of the things that I just know from muscle memory, I forget to kind of break it down in a simple format for them. So for this, we're going to be spending some time just really going through explanation of what everything means. Okay. So um, color design 101, you know that all colors are derived from the three originals, red, green, and blue, which is what you see right here. Okay. You also see what's called hue, saturation, and brightness. Hue refers to what determines what color you're going to be. So if I go in here and I grab this slider here, you see how that hue changes? Okay. So hue selects what the color actually is. So if you wanted bright red, you'd go up here and you can see the hue is 360. Your saturation is how much of that red, how rich that red's going to be, okay? So no saturation, it's going to be pure white. 100% saturation, it is going to be super bright red, okay? Or full red, okay? Then your brightness is, of course, how bright the image is. So if I grab my little cursor here, and as I lower that, you notice you see that brightness number going down, and you can see that it becomes a darker red, okay? Now, you could see that as I adjust the saturation, you can see the R, the G, and the B, and then also the M and the K adjusting as well, okay? So hue, saturation, and brightness, and then red, green, and blue, these are pretty standard within Adobe Photoshop. When you're getting into print design, the CMYK becomes much more important, okay? Sorry, I need 1 second. Friends, please bear with me. Okay. Okay, so within a print design, this stands for cyan, magenta. Go back here. Sorry. So cyan, magenta, yellow, and key. Okay, so cyan is blue-green, magenta is reddish-purple, yellow, and then key is black. Okay, so basically you're just getting an additional color space in here to create your image. So you'll notice as this image gets darker, the K value goes up. So this was a little bit confusing for me initially, because in my head I would thought K being 0 would be black, right? Which is the same as brightness. This is one of those quirky things I mentioned earlier that you have to retrain your brain about. It's the opposite when you're working in Illustrator. So your K value, meaning your black value, the higher it is, the darker your image, okay? And the reason why I'm showing you this black background, which I have no intention of using, is to talk about the bleed area, okay? So if I grab the anchor here, sorry, I work in a 4K workspace and the margins are pretty small. So if I bring that in like here and just go to the edge, okay, that's not going to be within the printer's marks. So that's why I drug it out beyond that. Okay, so if you take a look at that, you can see that that black background is completely outside of that bleed area. All right. So essentially what happens is when they print a document, and give me 1 second, friends. Yeah. So what happens is when they print your document, okay, that black would go all the way out here, and then when they cut this, that black would go all the way to the edge. Does that make sense? Printing software traditionally is that way. It's just how it works, so that way you get clean images, okay? Sorry, I got a weird window that just popped up on. There we go. Thank you. Everything is problematic. So, and another thing too, I want to mention real quickly is how you work in graphic design is completely unique to you. So, You probably will learn a workflow or a process or that sort of thing on how you approach everything, and that's totally fine. And how I approach it may be wildly different, and that is completely okay. One of the big things I've noticed when I get artwork, especially in Illustrator, is graphic designers have their own process and their own way of doing things, and you have to kind of learn how to do that. So if you see me do something and you think that's not the best way or that way doesn't make sense for you, don't feel like you have to put a square peg into a round hole, if that makes sense. Okay. So one thing I want to show you guys real quick, and then we're actually going to get into the tutorial 36 minutes later. Yeah, that was not passive aggressive. That was full on aggressive. So I'm going to minimize this so you don't get the infinity space. Okay, so if you look over here, you'll see that there's a layers palette, and if I expand that within that layer, you'll see that rectangle layer there. If I were to grab my text tool here and type in, okay, of course it's black. You can either go over here with that layer. You want to make sure that layer is selected. Now by selected, it's going to have the blue box next to it. Okay. If I have this selected, but I double click this and make this white, you notice it changes the text. Okay. Well, actually, wait. It's already getting challenging. Okay, let's try that again. So you can see that it's white here. Now we can't see it because it's only 12 pixels. So I do things extreme. There we go. Okay. That's okay. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, that's what happened. I hadn't exited out, and when I hit V, which is the shortcut for the move tool, that's what happened. Okay, so that's why I was wonky. Okay, so anyway, if you go back over here and you see the layers palette here now, you can see that there's a type layer that's an accidental one. I'm going to just simply delete that. But you can see there's that and there's that. Okay. Now, what's very odd to me is the fact that I've modified that and it doesn't represent it. But now that you can see that, you could work in here and you could kind of move this around wherever you want it. And then if you click back here, you can grab the background and move that. Okay. It's a free working free space. Now, one of the things that you'll have to get used to is when you're trying to select things to move. You notice as I move my cursor, you'll see like a blue outline come around. That means if I click here, I'm going to grab that object. This can become somewhat challenging sometimes when you're working in Illustrator, because if you have a lot of objects that kind of overlap one another, actually grabbing them can be a struggle. That's why I said going, here and selecting something here. You see how it also okay, so as I click those, you see that it's changing them here. So we'll go back to monitor 2, and you'll be able to see it in this window. So as I select the text, you see that it goes to that text box there. Okay. All right, so let me see here. So what I'm going to do is I actually have some national logos that are associated with our church. So I'm going to bring in each one of those, and I work in Windows. So whether you work in Windows or Apple, you can just go to your system browser, and I have my Windows Explorer open. So right now I'm just going to drag in, maybe. Oh, yep, there it is. Just took a moment. This, 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 and then, oops, learn how to use a controller, Troy, and this. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off this black rectangle. Okay. Yep. So now you can see these different logo treatments from the national church. Okay. And yeah, so I've drug those in now because what I'm thinking about doing is for the logo treatment that we're going to do is using a national emblem that associates with the wider United Church of Christ, and then have our name and potentially a slogan on it. Okay. What we're thinking between me as a graphic designer as well as the president of our church, who happens to be my wife. Yeah, that was a mild flex. What we're thinking about doing is we want something that is very easily recognizable, that as someone's driving down the road, they can see it and process it very quickly. So we do not want it to be super complicated, but we want to choose a logo emblem that right there, that is very recognizable. Okay. You think about branding and marketing. Here's the theory part. So pay close attention. When you talk about theory and branding, you want to have something that's very consistent that people are exposed to frequently. And you want things to start to become instantly recognizable. Okay. Let's talk about the greatest hits. Let's talk about McDonald's, the golden arches, Starbucks, the logo, Nike, the swoosh, those things. You don't even have to have any verbiage with those emblems. You can just see those emblems and instantly know the organization that they're recognizing. Okay. So the thought on this is choosing an emblem that is nationally recognizable. So say someone moves in from out of market and they're familiar with United Church of Christ and their artwork and their emblems, that choose something that if somebody's driving down the road and that's all they see, oh, that's a United Church of Christ. Okay. We want that kind of very quick, instantaneous recognition, but also something that ties us to the larger church and the things that they do within them. Okay. If church is not your thing, I get it, but this is the project we're working on, and we're able to apply these principles to this logo treatment and this design. So please stay with me, even if it's not your cup of tea. All right. So one of the other things that I need to look at is I was thinking that there were some additional okay, so I'm going to the national UCC website. Because I was thinking they had some additional emblems that I wanted to incorporate or pull. And I could never remember. UCC logos, download full color, one color, rainbow God is still speaking, comma. Oh, okay, so that is that, okay. Sorry, I'm reading the usage guidelines. This is actually a really good thing to show you real quick. So, excuse me. So if you're someone who is considering being a graphic designer, or you just decide to create a logo for a friend or something of that nature, anytime you're incorporating an organization's logo or elements of the logo, Something you need to be very, 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 very aware of are the usage guidelines, okay? All national organizations, whether they're nonprofit or for-profit, have a detailed explanation of how you can use their logo. And this could be very simple to extremely complex, okay? So when you're going to use a logo, you immediately want to ask the organization, do you have logo standards or usage guidelines? And you will want to read through these very, very clearly, okay? As you can see right here, usage guidelines, area of isolation, and sizing, okay? Full explanation here, okay? Now, right here, there is a minimum size for reproducing the United Church of Christ logos. This ensures our logo remains legible in every usage. Never reproduce the logo smaller than the minimum size. These minimum size applies to all UCC logos, both for print and online usage. So you can see right off the bat, if you're using the full UCC logo with the rainbow emblem and the text, 1.5 inches. If you incorporate the logo with a Just World for All slogan, it has to be 2 inches. If you're using this emblem here, then it's 0.875 high. And you may be looking at this thinking, wow, that's really complicated. Actually, this is the simple version, friends. I have had the Mob Flex alert. I have had the opportunity to work on some national ad campaigns for large automotive chains. Ford Motor Company, their usage guidelines is several pages long. And it's fine because, again, they want this to be instantly recognizable and not to be confused with everything. Point of the story is, with all this, you really want to make sure that you understand how usage guidelines work, and ask for that information, okay? That way down the road, you're not getting anybody mad, or if you print 500 copies of a flyer and you find out after you've printed all those copies that you didn't use this right, and and then the organization that you're incorporating the logo from says you can't use it that way, you've basically wasted all that money on $500 or on 500 prints. Or in our instance, we're making a big old sign. Last thing I would last thing I would hate is to find out that I didn't use it right. Best practice I can give you, or rule of thumb or suggestion I can give you, is, sorry, got a little distracted there. Best rule of thumb I can give you on this is, if you are creating a logo for a local organization and you're incorporating something that's tied to a national organization, before you print it or use it for whatever purpose you want, reach out to the national organization, say, hey, we're incorporating this as part of our personalized logo treatment. Want to make sure that this falls within your usage guidelines. They sign off on it, then you have nothing to worry about, okay? I did something not too long ago where I had to go through that process. That organization, it was another nonprofit. That organization was really great about it. You just went to their website. They had somewhere on the website that you could submit your artwork, and a very nice person emailed me back 2 hours later. Logo looks great. I really like what you designed. However, this element does have to be like 10% larger. Simple change. And we were using that design to be printed on shirts, so saved a lot of work. They printed like 250 shirts. So always, always, always check to see if there are usage guidelines for any national elements you're trying to incorporate. Reach out to those organizations once your artwork is approved by your client, and make sure that everything's on the up and up. Okay? Something else to talk about real quickly when it comes to usage guidelines, and I want to go to monitor 1 again, and as we look at this, okay? I apologize that every so often you have to see the OBS screen and the Infinite screens. Only have 2 monitors here. So traditionally speaking, I'd have the third monitor off to the side with everything else on it, so I apologize for that. If you are creating a logo from scratch for a client, okay, you're going to want to create usage guidelines for them as well. Okay, so you're going to want to specify best practices for how you use those logos or how you use colors or things of that nature, and you'll want to create a PDF or another type of document that explains all those usages. Okay, and as you can see right here, they also have examples of how not to use it, and they give explanations for that. And you can see right here, like there's another brand guideline, co-branding, but you'll want to create that for your clients. Okay. Additionally speaking, the majority of the time, you are going to want to be very specific as to what colors are acceptable to use within the logo. Okay. I'm a little surprised that on that usage site that there wasn't anything about colors, which is making me wonder now if I click on this. No, there's not. So typically speaking, they're also going to give you specifications on what colors are allowed to be used with your logo. So like right here, of course, full black and white, but the full color images, like generally speaking, a lot of clients will, or a lot of organizations, excuse me, will say you're allowed to use this emblem in either full color, black and white, or the blue. The text either can be black or white, or sometimes your text can be one of the colors within like a multicolored image. Sometimes they won't allow you to change the color of the text. It's either, if you're using the full color, you have to use black or white text, and that sort of thing. The fact that they don't disclose that on their usage guidelines probably means that they're okay with you changing this color to whatever you want. But don't be surprised when you have some color guidelines for them not to be very, very specific about what colors are acceptable to use if you're modifying fonts. Okay. Another example is the YMCA. They did a massive logo rebrand several years ago. They went away from the full YMCA to just the Y, and their standards are pretty specific and intense. And if memory serves, I think you're only allowed to use 3 colors for any type, any verbiage you tag onto the Y. And if I know I'm wrong on this, but I'm just saying this as an example. I don't think you're allowed to use any text next to the emblem. I think you're only allowed to put it underneath, but I think I'm probably completely wrong on that, so don't take my word on it. But anywho, all right, so I am rambling, and we are not getting into the graphic design. So, all right, so I had downloaded a couple other things, and I want to go and grab those. For some reason, I was thinking, I have a feeling that's going to be the exact same thing. I was thinking they had more emblems associated with them, but oh no, that is a good one to have. Okay. Black and white package. Okay, I'm going to extract all. Okay. For some reason, I thought that they had went with some additional emblems or treatments, but I'm not seeing any. So I'm going to grab you. Now I'm a little concerned. Oops. All right, so go here and undo that. Come here. I'm going to bring in the PNG. I'm starting to get a little bit anxious now because I wasn't paying attention to this earlier. that they're all PNG files. So I'm kind of worried. No, they're maintaining a resolution. Okay. So, all right. So we have these elements all in here right now. So we have that one, and then we have the comma. Okay. So we've got some different emblems and elements that we can start with as far as our design. I have a feeling they're going to come back to me later and give me the dimensions of this sign, and it's not going to match the aspect ratio of 24 by 36. And then I'm going to be like completely overhauling this design. I'll probably do one treatment and then ask about the canvas space, so that way I can modify that artboard before I do the other ones. So, guys, I've been streaming for an hour. I'm going to take a quick break, and I'll be right back. So please hang with us, and then we'll actually get into this logo treatment. All right, friends, thanks for your patience, and I'm back. Okay, so we have really gone down the rabbit hole as far as some of the ways you can bring this in, kind of, and we've kind of went over the tools of this a little bit and that sort of thing. So let's just put together a logo treatment for this sign and kind of show you the thoughts of that, kind of how you lay things out for spacing and overall aesthetics. And we'll actually make this beneficial for everybody else. And I tell you what I'm going to do too, if you're tuning in and you're wondering about the actual logo design and kind of the theory of that, I'll put some timestamps in the YouTube video afterwards. I'm making a note to myself. And I'm going to be off camera for this segment because I just want you to be able to see the full workspace and not be just distracted by my extreme good looks. I'm kidding, but not really. And one of the things I want you to know is I use a lot of keyboard shortcuts. I'll try my best to say, oh yeah, like hitting V on your keyboard will get your move tool or selection tool, and like your pen tool is, I thought it showed me that. P, and then certain things of that nature, okay? A big one I use a lot is the hand tool, which allows you to grab the artboard, workspace, canvas, and just kind of move it around. And then another thing I did within preferences is my wheel on my mouse. I have that set to use to zoom in and zoom out. So I think what I'm going to do for this first treatment, I am going to use the rainbow comma. And I'm going to use the rainbow comma and put the text next to it, and then incorporate a just world for all. And I might put the church website on there, and we'll see how busy that is. I'm going to text the president. Because if the ratio's off, then what we'll have to end up doing later is redesigning the layout of the space. My brain is fried this week. We had finals at my university, and I've been doing a lot of grading and had a lot of other stuff going on. So complex math is making my brain hurt. Essentially, what I'm talking about is if it's 24 by 36, that has a ratio, right? But if it is like 30 by 36, that's a different artboard. So the nice thing about using Illustrator and having a vector-based artwork is if you design something and it's too small for what the printable space is going to be, whoever's doing the printing or the fabrication, in this instance, of a sign, as long as that aspect ratio matches, they can increase the overall size when they go in to create it. And the sign will print in the layout as you had intended. Okay? Hope that makes sense. But if it doesn't, then you might end up cropping some of your image or losing some of your image or having some extra empty space around it as well. Okay? All right, so I'm going to do things a little bit differently here. Okay, so obviously there's a JPEG in here, which we do not want. Okay, that's not a JPEG. That's not a JPEG. Not a JPEG. Where's the JPEG? No. Because we've lost our text. Oh, no. It's because it's white. I'm not clever. Okay. All right. We don't need that, so we're going to delete that. And we said we were going to use this. Okay. But we don't want adjust world for all on there. Now, what I could do is I could take this element into Photoshop and crop off adjust world for all and save that out as a separate PNG and bring that in. It's a lot of extra work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a clipping mask on, oops, I don't want to be in isolation mode. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put what's called a clipping mask on this element to only show the elements I want to see. Okay, so a mask, if you're new to graphic design and you're unfamiliar with that term, it's essentially how a real life mask is. It's going to hide some elements within a specific layer or an entire artwork or that sort of thing. Now, creating a clipping mask in Photoshop, you just grab the marquee tool, drag a selection, you go to layer, layer mask in either reveal selection or hide selection. But it's different within Illustrator. So what you're going to do is you're going to get your rectangle tool here, okay? And what I'm going to do is drag that rectangle over the rainbow comma, okay? So now we'll need to go to monitor 1. Hide me and hide that, okay? So now over here in my layers palette, you can see my rectangle, and then you can see this UCC comma, and what I'm going to go ahead and rename that. Double click on that within your layers palette, and that will rename it. And UCC comma, okay? So you're going to select both of these, and you can see that they both have that square next to them, okay? Now, a lot of back and forth, I know. So now back within this window, you're going to go to Object, and then down. No, wait. I got to find it. Be patient. Oh, Clipping Mask, and you're going to hit Make. Okay. So we're going to undo that and do it again. So you've got both of these layers selected. Object, Clipping Mask, Make. Okay. Now, if we go back to monitor 1 and you look in your layers palette here, you can see that it created what's called a clip group. And if you expand that clip group, you can see your rectangle and your comma. So if you need to modify your rectangle, you would go here and click that. Okay, or if you wanted to modify your comma by itself, you would click that there. Now, if we go back to this monitor here, and just pay attention to these boxes. As I change what I'm selecting, you can see that I have control of that layer, okay? But now I have the entire clip group, and if I get my move tool, which is V, grab that and move it around. So now we are only seeing the emblem. Now, if you have the entire clip group selected and you grab the bounding box and say you want to make this loads bigger, okay, it's going to do the clipping. It's going to change the clipping mask, the rectangle, and the comma, okay? Now, when you grab this, you're going to have free form adjustment, okay? I'm sorry. I'm going to apologize. That probably caused some motion sickness there, okay? To avoid that, if you want to make sure that you maintain the horizontal and vertical scale, hold down Shift on your keyboard, or get right there, hold Shift, grab it. Now that will lock it so it maintains the aspect ratio of it, okay? So that way you won't accidentally squish it or move it, all right? I feel like that's kind of grotesquely big. So what we'll do is we'll make that a little bit smaller and we'll bring that down here, okay? So now we have our emblem in place. So now let's start adding some text. So you can hit T or go over here and create your text. If you click on hold on that, you look at the options real quick. You have your too much caffeine. So if I click and hold on that, you can see there's the standard type tool, which will just add text horizontally across your canvas. You could do type on a path, which is if you say you had a squiggly line and you wanted the text to follow that path. If you had created a path, you can select this and then that will apply the text on that path. Or you can switch to vertical type if you want the letters to go up and down, okay? But we're just doing standard type tool here. So we're going to click on our space. So Bethlehem United Church of Christ. It's very important that you spell Christ correctly, Troy. Okay. And you just hit your V tool, and now you have that as text there. Okay. And if you look over here on the properties panel, this is why I left this here, so it'd be easier to find. So you have appearance, you have fill, you have your stroke, you have your overall opacity that you can adjust, and then within here you have your character elements, which is your standard typography options. And you can do either, you can select your font, the font style, the vertical height, the vertical spacing between lines of text. I kept wanting to say layers. And then this is kerning. So your kerning is the, oops, sorry. I don't know why it's not. What is kerning on extended selections can only be set to auto or 0 to modify space between multiple colors. You track. Okay. All right. You can see there, that's kind of, scrunching everything together. All right. So that's tracking. Tracking is the space between letters. So if you wanted it to have more relief between each letter, you increase that number. If you want it to be less, you decrease it. Okay. Your paragraph orientation, centered, left justified, right justified, justify with the line left, that sort of thing. We're just going to do this for now. Because I have a plan for when to do this. If you want to add bullets and numbering, you do that. And then here are some advanced aligning. So that'll snap it all the way to the left there. Center it in the middle of your canvas to the right. So it will take the whole document and move it. That'll move it to the top, middle, and bottom. And then if I center like that. So that's just a quick way to move it to certain spaces among the workspace. Okay. So one of the things I want to do with this is I want this text to, I want the name of the church or the organization to be the most prominent. And I'm doing it this way just so you can see it in action. So what I'm going to do is get that to be in a way where it is as wide across as all the text below it, okay? Different schools of thought, if we go over here and look at one of the other elements they had, I'm just going to move this down so you can see it a little bit more. With this treatment they have here, they use the full United Church of Christ emblem, and they've got this empty space here, or sometimes referred to as negative space, which is totally fine because they just created all 4 words are the same size, which we could do on ours, but I don't want any negative space within the name, so I just increased the Bethlehem name and then United Church of Christ. So basically it's flush each way, and actually it's not. So what I'm going to do is go here and I'm going to go a little bit bigger, and you have to be careful with this when you're creating it within the same box, because you have to make sure that whatever's selected is selected. So that's pretty close. I'll probably go and tweak that later. So now that I have that, and I have that with the emblem, I like the sizing of this. Some people would say that it needs to be just as it needs to be flush vertically with the top of your emblem and the bottom. I'm not going to do that. I might change it later, but for right now, I'm going to leave it like this because I like the balance of this. So what I'm going to do is if you hold down Shift and select that, you'll see it selects both. Now I can grab up here, hold down Shift again, and bring my sizing down, and now we have that. Okay. So that does not look too bad. I am not going to stay with this myriad font, but for now, it's fine. And now I need to find, okay. So now I want to use this and, oops. And same sort of thing on this. I only want the adjust world for all text. So once again, we will create a rectangle and we will do that, and we'll just do that there, and then I'm going to do the same sort of thing. Go over here to have those selected. Again, object, clipping mask, make. Okay, now we have just the adjust world for all text. And I'll bring that here. And that's starting to get really busy, I think. Sorry, I'm thinking. I'm contemplating life. Sorry about that. I was just reading something. All right, so we have the adjust world for all treatment, as well as an option to put in there. Essentially, what I'm doing right now is I'm pulling together all the elements that I want to incorporate in this. And what was the other one I wanted to do? Okay, so we were also contemplating the church website. Okay, so now we have that. That's pretty massive, so we'll just guesstimate maybe 300 pixels. Still quite big. Do this and go 250. Get our move tool and move this down here. Okay. And we'll click this to center it. And for now, we'll put it at the bottom. Okay. Now what? All right, so we have these elements in place right now, and what we're going to do is start playing around with the design. Okay. You know what? I'm thinking. Okay. So what I did there is released. I duplicated that layer and I released the clipping mask because here's what I'm thinking I'm gonna do. That's weird. Okay, so I'm going to bring that there. I'm going to turn off the clip group, just world for all. I'm going to grab my Bethlehem text, bring it here, and then I'm going to grab Bethlehem UCC, and I'm going to center you, click you, center you. Okay. And then this is way, way, way too big, so we're going to maybe go 125. Okay. Again, as I said, we want this signage to be simple and easily recognizable. So it is the road this church sits on. People probably go around 40, 45 miles an hour. So they're not going to have a lot of time. So we definitely want to just have elements in here that they can pick up real quick. Okay. Want to try and find a font. No, we're not using Archer. I'm going to use Verlag for now, and then what we'll do is we'll go down on this font size here. Kind of get that within that. Okay. And then same with this. We'll go Verlag again. I'm not going to use book. I'm going to use light for that. Okay. I really like that. I know it's not extremely fancy or wonky or crazy, but I think that it's nice, and so that I have not done. I'm gonna save this to my computer. Bethlehem UCC. I'll give you its 2025 projects. Sorry, I'm OCD about directories, so this would be the outdoor sign revamp 2025. And that's what we called it. And then, yep, Illustrator 2020. Yep, most recent version. Thank you. Okay. All right, so we have a logo treatment for that. It's pretty simple, right? Probably thinking, Troy, why did it take you an hour to actually get into the content creation of that? So yeah, so that looks pretty good. I'm kind of digging on that. Probably what I'll do once I get the aspect ratio and start really working on the canvas is I will probably incorporate pull some of these colors into this, I need to verify, what the background color will be, because that'll have a huge impact on the color selection for the fonts. But I don't have that information right now. I just had a little bit of time this morning to start working on the templates, so we did that. Okay, so that's that. So okay, so the next thing we're gonna do is I think we'll go ahead and work on the other one. That they requested we do. Sorry, I'm making some notes. Sorry, making some notes to the YouTube stream so that way if people come to watch it later, they can just shoot ahead to that element. Okay, so let's look at the logo design they want for the event they're going to have. So I'm going to close this, and then we will create a new file. And I'm going to go to print, because this is going to be used for a lot of things. Go to inches, and yeah, we'll just do 8.5 by 11 for now. Because more than likely, once we agree on a design, once we get a design approved, what I'm going to do is then give them this artwork in various different formats for what they need to use. Typically, when you're doing graphic design and you do a logo treatment, you're going to provide that artwork to your client in multiple formats. So of course you'll give them the Illustrator file and the EPS file for them to use. But for simplicity's sake, you'll give them a PNG file, typically with a transparent background, through Photoshop, so that way when they bring it in, it is the artwork only with nothing behind it, because if you save it as a JPEG, it's automatically going to fill the background in with a color. But you'll give them a JPEG as well. So a PNG, a JPEG, an EPS, usually a really high resolution TIFF file. It's a really large TIFF file, or file size, but it has really, really great resolution. And then depending on if they're doing a mailer, I might do a watermarked Word document for them, so that way they can have the artwork at the very top, and then they can go from there. So for this, they currently have just a thing in place, and that's currently what they're using. And you can see right off the bat that we're already starting to get some rasterization, some pixelization of this. That's because this is a bitmap artwork file that probably was created in Canva. It works just fine, but the problem is that this came out in an email that had loads of information in it, and essentially it's already scaled bigger in this document. This goes back to the bitmap versus vector artwork we talked about earlier. But this is what they're using, and the theme is around Lego and Lego design. So they've requested that the logo treatment I come up with as a logo feel, Lego feel, Lego. Which, as a Lego nerd, this is all up my alley. So I'm going to have to practice restraint on this, because I could do like 30 or 40 treatments of this. Okay, that's a massive exaggeration. So let's get started on that. And the reason why I wanted to show you this one is that Adobe is starting to incorporate AI technology into all of their applications, and it's been a phased rollout as they've been doing things. There are elements. It's been in play in Illustrator for a while, and now Photoshop's using it, and Premiere's starting to use it. And I like, as much as I hate the concept of AI because I worry that eventually it's going to make my job irrelevant, because you can just go in and say, hey, create me a logo for Vacation Bible School with Lego, with Lego blocks, and to save the date, and it'll auto-generate it for you. Eventually, no one's going to need to hire me out to create logo because software will be able to do it for them. Sorry for my mild rant there, but it does worry about the longevity of my career and me being made obsolete eventually. But one of the things I will say as a graphic designer that this has, and someone who creates content day in, day out, it is beneficial for me because I can use AI within things to create artwork quickly. So instead of me having to build an entire Lego piece, which I can do and I can do rather quickly, I can have AI do it for me in a fraction of the time, which keeps my costs lower, which allows me to be competitive against like providers in the area. So we're going to go to, I got to remember where this is. I always forget where this is, and I'm going to have to Google it real quick. Sorry. I don't want to watch a video. Is it window? Is it generated variations? No. Essentially, we have to get a dialog box open that is the generate. Might be at the very bottom. Nope. Okay, it's contextual taskbar. Okay. So now you're going to generate vectors. Okay. And this is a universal truth. So if you're using AI, and I'm sure if you're a younger person, you've been using AI pretty much day in, day out, and you already know this knowledge. But for people who are new to using AI technology, the more detailed you can be in your prompt or your request, the better the results will be. So if I just type in Lego, I'm going to get a Lego. But if I'm very specific on my Lego prompt or my description, I'm going to get a much more detailed thing. So let's see that in action. So if I hit Lego and just hit generate, it's going to take some time to generate some samples for me to choose from. Oh, that's a new one. One or more words in your prompt violate user guidelines. Okay, that's a new one for me. I have yet to get that one. Let's see. So what if we did a building block? Huh. I like when stuff goes amiss because we all deal with hiccups and roadblocks in everything we do every day, right? So having that happen and having to figure out how to adjust that or modify it is part of the learning process, and that's a really good one. Okay, so Just don't use the registered trademark word Lego and go with something else. So you can see right up here immediately, it did gave us 3 variations to look at. So, you kind of have more of a square box, more of a rectangle blocks, and then 3 Lego blocks stacked. Okay, so now I'm going to do building block cross. Just generating some ideas, just kind of going with this and see what they're doing. One idea I had was to have essentially a church cross made of like Lego building blocks as the emblem, and then kind of going from there. Okay, that's interesting. That's kind of neat. Ooh. I don't know. So anyway, this automatically creates this. So whichever one you select, it's going to, so if I click here and bring this, and now we go over to our layers palette, and I'm going to minimize you real quick and go to this. You can see if we go to our layers tab here, you can see the generate object, okay, and that's in a group. So I'm going to turn off, I'm going to turn off our original, and then if we open this up, you see that there are multiple groups, multiple groups, multiple groups, multiple groups. And if you're new to graphic design, this just made your brain explode and you want to cry. But this is what I was talking about a while ago, depending on how people use software. It's just really understanding how people's brains work. And you can see within these groups, so if I were to select, just say that path right there, okay, and then we go back to that monitor, you could see right here, that's what's selected. And if you pay real close attention to the workspace, as I click on different elements, you can see that it selects all of them. Okay, so that group is obviously these 3 Lego blocks here. And then I have a feeling my YouTube stream is going to get flagged because I keep using the word Lego. This building block here is that circle, and as I click on different groups, you will see them being selected, okay? So now that we have this object, building blocks with the cross, you can see that, the AI accidentally created a couple of these. You can easily go in and modify all these. So say if you wanted to change colors, or if you wanted to change kind of the layout of these, that's very easily to do. And that's the nice thing about using AI within Illustrator is, think about the amount of time it would take me to build these manually. Excuse me, too much coffee. And kind of go in and do shaders and things of that nature. And you can see like here, AI is really cool, but at the same time, kind of filling in those areas, it looks a little bit wonky. And if I can get that path tool there, I'm definitely will want to go in and clean this up, just to make it look a little bit more realistic as to what a building block would look like. But I kind of like this. Definitely probably going to get rid of the ones in the middle. And then decide what I'm going to do up here on the top as well. But what I did there was I clicked and dragged, and because it's grouped, it's going to select everything. You would have to ungroup it. But what I'll do is I'll just go in and, manually find these and clean these up. So I like that one. So we have that one in there. So now we could just continue going on. What else could we do based on this image with it being building block oriented? I just wish I had a bigger social media following, because I would love for this chat to have a lot of people in it. and then we'd have all kinds of people brainstorming ideas. One of the difficult things about being self-employed is I work in a silo, and I kind of, my wheels spin quite a bit as far as should I do something, should I not? Yeah. So I'm going to just sit here for a moment and, so window, where's my, okay, so there's my, so we're going to go to generate vectors. Okay, so what else could we do? What about a basic building block? And I know I misspelled block. You can troll me in the comments all you want. That would be B-L-O-C-K, Troy. Yeah, I don't like any of those. Let's see if I get any different results actually spelling it. And you can see it's even auto-filling a lot of different possibilities. But we'll just do basic building block spelled correctly this time. Okay. It's interesting. Like for me, I not a fan of the kind of the swirly, curvy, artistic edges. That's just me. Yeah, so single building block hard square edges, and we'll see what it gives us from that. I'm just messing around with this currently for people who watch this, just to see how different variations of type might give you different results. Yeah, see, I like that a little bit better with the more traditional style of what it's trying to look like. You have that there. Yeah. I also know the other option we have is to just go and grab an image off the internet and then go in and manipulate it, cut it out, and that sort of thing. I don't like doing that when I'm creating artworks. I don't like to use other people's creations. And if I do, I always like to give them credit for that. I use a lot of resource sites like Pixabay and Unsplash.com for photography. And I always give credit to the artists who created it. Because that's the fair way to do it, especially if they're creating free content, and with the hopes that if they create that content, that people will give them credit and a lot of people will see it and then potentially reach out to them to get more work. It's the nice way of doing things. It's the ethical and moral way of doing things. Nothing frustrates a content creator more than someone taking their hard work and using it without giving them credit, or more importantly, their permission. I think it's happened to all of us. I've been in this industry for a really, really long time, over 2 decades, and my stuff's been used a lot without my permission or compensation. Yeah, and it's really irritating. A lot of people think we're going to go down the rabbit hole and we're going to have another rant, guys. A lot of people think that if you create something that they just have free use to use it forever. This ties back into that logo usage we were talking about earlier. About making sure that you are okay to use it, but more importantly, that you're using it correctly and or, yeah, and whether or not you need to financially compensate somebody for using it. It's a big deal, guys, because those of us who create content and we do this, we're trying to make a living at doing this, having people use our stuff and incorporate it for their own elements without us getting paid, it costs us money. And you're talking about royalties and other things of that nature. And you create 100 pieces of artwork, and then all of a sudden everybody just uses that artwork, and they never want to create you anything, and then all of a sudden you don't have any work for a while. So all that being said, that's why I am very, very reluctant to go and, I could even go downstairs and take a picture of a building block, a Lego, because we have loads of Legos, and just manipulate those and use those. But again, that is something that somebody else makes money off of. I'm not going to do that. So in a pinch, I'll do it, but for something like this, I'm going to try and just create it from scratch. That way it's something I've created and I'm not taking anybody else's work. So I think what I'm going to do for now is I am going to take some time with this one and modify it a little bit, clean it up, make it look a little more like a Lego block. And I like this element because if we pull up our original image and, this is another nice thing about Illustrator, is that if you drag things outside of here, when you save your document out, this will be cropped off, but you can put it here and see it as a reference and not have it in, kind of in the space. So say the reason why I was thinking of the cross, one, because the aesthetic of, again, it's a church. But if you were to just put some text in here and put Vacation Bible School, Bethlehem, UCC, June 22 to 24, 2025, and then get my text tool, you can now, remember, hold shift to lock the vertical and horizontal. You could put that in there, and then within a design principle, that looks really, really good. So you got your main emblem here, so your eye is drawn to the cross right off the bat. Oh, that's a church cross. I get what that. Oh, it's Vacation Bible School. So grab this bar, move it out of the way. So that gives you a lot of real estate. You could even, if you wanted to, I think it would look a little wonky, but you could do Vacation Bible School. I'll tell you what, let's just see that in action. So we'll go here and duplicate that. And what we'll do is, and then delete all this content, and then grab that and put that there. Of course, we'll want that to be kind of centered. And you could, if you wanted to, I'm not saying I like this, but you could do something like Vacation Bible School like that, and then delete that, and then get your element here and kind of have it underneath here. And say you wanted to fill in that space a little bit more, put the church website. So now you have that element here. Now this becomes a little bit wonky because traditionally I like symmetry. When you're doing, you're creating a logo, you kind of want things to line up with locking points. So, almost in line with that cross there, or have the Bible school centered around that text. It just looks better aesthetically. So when you have this and it's kind of over in this corner, that doesn't necessarily look bad. so to speak. I mean, if I were doing this, though, I would definitely make that text a little bit smaller. Smaller meaning smaller point size. So then you could do that, and then you could actually have this centered here. And what does it look like if I center the text like that? Oops. And bring that over here. I don't know. Undo all that. This is just as an example of what you can do with this. I think, actually, if I'm doing this, I think for just the logo treatment, I'm going to do that like that, and then kind of have it maybe like that for now. I'm not saying I'm completely crazy on this, but it's just kind of an idea. So if I wanted to change the color of this and pull a color from this, you just grab your eyedropper tool here, bring it over here, and then if you click that, you'll see that it changes it. And then as long as you're on the eyedropper tool, you can continue to just, oops. That's weird. Thank you. We'll just do the blue for now. You definitely want to have color symmetry when you're doing a logo treatment or any type of graphic layout. You know, when you're creating graphics, you want to stay somewhat within the same color palette and use colors that aesthetically work with one another. We'll have another tutorial about choosing color palettes and templates when you're doing treatments. But you're like, typically speaking, you're going to avoid certain color combinations. You're going to want to stay within color combinations that are close to each other as far as hue, talking about what we talked about earlier. So like if you're using a blue, you're probably going to, choose a purple or a green. And if you have green, you might go with like more of a cyan or maybe a light yellow. But traditionally speaking, you're not going to use like a green and a red because there's a color in between it. And that stark difference, one, doesn't print very well. And two, it's not very pleasing to the eye. There are exceptions to that. Rules are there as sort of guidelines. A lot of people will say, oh, no, you can't do that because there's a rule in place for that. Generally speaking, I'm getting ready to wrap up the stream today. Generally speaking, that, rules are there just kind of to give you a launching platform as far as like designing and using aesthetics that complement one another. Something like this where, in an example like this, if you were using Lego building blocks, you would probably have a variety of colors. So you could do, you're just going to want your text to maybe either be like a black or in something like this. I'm more than likely, when I really get into designing this and cleaning up these shapes and everything else, I'm going to use the Vacation Bible School. It's going to be one of the colors from one of the building blocks. Some people will say, hey, why don't you go ahead and do like Vacation in the blue and the Bible in the green and the school in the yellow. I mean, you could totally do that. The problem is when you start printing it, if it's going to be a part of a print thing, that can maybe look a little weird. Maybe not. I tend to be pretty simple as far as like the colors I choose. So if I were to use multiple colors, Vacation's going to be one color, Bible School would be a secondary color. I wouldn't do all three. And it also depends on the demographic you're advertising to. If you're creating something that is specifically designed to capture the attention of younger audiences, you can be a lot more creative and liberal with the colors you choose because, younger kids love vibrant colors and a lot of chaos and everything else. But if it's older people, you might want to go with something that's a little bit more traditional, a little bit more modern, a little bit more simplistic, so it's eye-catching. If you're doing things to advertise Vacation Bible School, more than likely it's going to be for something or for parents. So you'll want something that is very eye-catchy, that gets their attention, but something that also that's very easily able to decipher and ascertain. Again, we're talking about attention. Adults are being pulled in a million different directions every day. I can attest to that as a husband and a business owner and a father, not in any kind of hierarchy order there. But so I mean that's why I said I'd probably go with just your standard 2 colors on that. So yeah, this is a good launching spot for me to get into and really focus on. It's hard for me to be productive when I'm trying to, provide a tutorial on how this works and have these concepts as far as how you do things here or there, and be actually productive and efficient. And yeah, we've been streaming for almost 2 hours today going through this. But I figured, hey, let's just go ahead. Hey, we're doing this. Let's take an opportunity to do a quick tutorial. I want to do a lot more tutorials moving forward, and really get into the crux and really take a look at how software works and how you use it. So if you found this entertaining or engaging, or you want to learn more, or more than likely give me a second chance, do me a favor. Like the YouTube channel, sign up for notifications, follow for more. We're going to do a lot more tutorials over the summer. It is my intention to try and stream a tutorial every day. And I want to stream the tutorials so that way if people do watch them, they can watch them in live real time and give us questions. That way we can answer them and not have to follow up later. That way you can ask questions in real time. We can take a look at it and kind of demonstrate how you do certain things. But we'll be looking at Premiere. We'll be looking at Photoshop. We'll be looking at After Effects. Sorry, my brain is mush at this point, and I actually have to go and take care of some other tasks too, for another project, for another client. But anyway, long story short, I'm rambling, and I apologize for that. Do us a favor, give us a like on this tutorial if you found it beneficial or entertaining. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Voppel Video. Sign up for alerts. We will definitely try to promote when we're going to have tutorials and what it's going to be about, so it just doesn't come out of nowhere. That way, if it's something that you're interested in learning about, you can learn about that as well. We're also going to have tutorials on videography and photography, fundamentals and basics for you to come. And it's not going to be like today where it's very fluid, kind of all over the place, and we're talking about all kinds of different things. If we're doing a specific tutorial, it's going to be very brief, very, not brief, very more organized, very more, here's step, not a lot of fluff, not a lot of blander. If you're like me, if I am looking for an answer to a question and I'm watching a YouTube tutorial, I get a little frustrated if there's 30, 60 seconds, 2 minutes, or in this case today, an hour of fluff before we get into the actual tutorial. If I'm doing a tutorial on how to manually operate a camera and how to work ISO, shutter speed, and aperture, and how all three of those play together, and how to properly expose an image, you're going to get 10, 15 seconds of, hey, welcome to the channel. Be sure to like and follow, blah, blah. Let's get into it. Okay, so ISO is your camera's brightness setting, and so forth and so on. And we will fire away through all of that, okay? To just be very concise and beneficial, because I want to be respectful of your time as well as others. But anyway, long story short, please help us grow this channel. We really just want to have a big following and have more interaction. And we want to grow a big audience because we want to share our knowledge and expertise with everybody who's wanting to be content creators or, are wanting to find ways to supplement their income, aka side hustles, and just share 20 plus years of knowledge and expertise with everybody who's out there. And we can't do that without your help. So, like I said, here's our contact information. You can find more information about us as a company at voppelvideo.com. If you would, please go and check out all the services we provide. We might provide a service that might be beneficial for your organization. We specialize in all manners of content creation, from filming, still photography, editing, graphic design, animation, live streaming, consulting, script direction, training, all the things. If you've thought about video marketing as something that might be beneficial to your organization, it is. It's vital, and it's not as expensive as you might think. And as my good friend, the great Randino, said, it doesn't cost you anything to have a conversation. Reach out to us. There is a contact page on our website, and just say, hey, curious about video marketing and how it could benefit my company, my organization. Can we have a conversation? At the end of that conversation, if you decide this isn't my cup of tea, or maybe now it's not the right time, that's fine. You're not going to hurt my feelings. At the end of the day, you've just learned more about my company. I've learned more about yours. And it's okay if you choose not to invest in at that time, or you want to go with a different provider. It's all good. But we just love the opportunity to talk to you about how video marketing might benefit your organization, help you stand out and engage with new clients or customers. And we'd love that opportunity to have that conversation with you. And like I said, on our YouTube channel, where it's at Voppel Video, there are a few samples of our work, as well as our website. We're on Vimeo as well, Voppel Video. And then if you're someone who might want to watch some live streaming of gaming, we're doing that on Twitch as well, just as for kicks and giggles and for fun, but also to demonstrate our ability to run live streams and live event situations. That is a service we provide as well. So you can look for us there. That's pure entertainment value as well. But you can find us on that resource as well. And so do us a favor, give us a like, give us a follow. If you don't mind, share these links on your social media profiles as well, to help us grow and reach wider audiences. So if you watch this and you enjoyed it, please give us a like, hit us in the comments section with any questions, or if there's a specific tutorial that you're looking for information about that might be something you want to learn more about or understand more about, let us know in the comment section. Or the easiest way to get us, go voppelvideo.com, hit contact us, send us an email through there, say, hey, saw your tutorials on YouTube. I was looking for some help on how to do this and this task in this application. We'll create content for you to help answer that question. We're looking for ideas on stuff to create every day, and we want to help you out. So I have talked way longer than I should have. And I'll be honest with you. I did this tutorial today to kind of avoid some projects I have to work on. We all do it, right? But I need to wrap up this live stream and actually go and be productive and get some things done over the next hour. But hey, thanks for watching. More than likely, if you see this, you didn't watch it live. You watched it at a later date. And either way, thanks for watching a little bit or a lot of it. Much love to you. I hope you have a great weekend. It's Friday when we're recording this. So whatever you got planned this weekend, I hope it's great and glorious. And happy Mother's Day to all you amazing moms out there. We love and respect all the work you do for everybody every day of your life, and the impact you make to everyone around you. So I wish you the very best of Mother's Day. Just know that you are seen and you are loved. Thanks for watching, and check back soon.